Welcome once again to teleSUR English. At this moment, we go live to Mexico, where a parade is being held to commemorate the 115th anniversary of the start of the Mexican Revolution. We are seeing live images at this moment as we see President Sheinbaum that will be leading this event. Let's recall the beginning of one of the historical instances that mark the 20th century in Latin America, one of the most important revolutions of the century, the Mexican Revolution, that shaped the way not only that the continent, but also particularly that Mexico regards its society, its relationship to land and to the different sectors of society that make the country, the political sphere, and the formation of the Mexican society was forever changed by this transcendental event that was the Mexican Revolution that today commemorates 115th anniversary of its beginning. Let's recall a process that reshaped the way that the society was structured, that the society was being led, a dispute of power in terms of what interest needed to shape that society, that Mexican state. And this changed the way that the country, a leading country in Latin America, a country that many social movements afterwards would be looking to this experience, that brought to the forefront, to the first place, the importance of the demands of the peoples, also a very significant way of reshaping the relationship to land and land ownership, and who was in charge of deciding over that land and the power that it gave. A revolution that was carried out in order to bring to that forefront the needs of those people and their relationship to the land. That was the Mexican Revolution, once again, at the beginning of the 20th century. One of the most important events at that moment that reshaped Latin America, their possibilities in terms of thinking the political structures of these states, and also was so important worldwide in parallel with the Russian Revolution that was also taking place during those first decades of the 20th century. Today marks 115th anniversary of the beginning of that process that was the Mexican Revolution, that would have then different consequences throughout the century, but definitely continues to shape a phase of which Mexico continues to regard its own relationship to political structures, to the different components of society. And this government, the government of Morena, on the Sheinbaum presidency, regards this process and an important milestone to look back to and forward to as well, in terms of the horizons that it continues to pose for Mexican society as a whole. We are looking at live images from Mexico. We were just looking at the beginning of the parade, the President Claudia Sheinbaum about to lead the act that was coming in, greeting the different political figures. Let's recall it's the 115th anniversary of the beginning of the Mexican Revolution. Once again, President Claudia Sheinbaum that is greeting the crowds as well. President Sheinbaum at a very significant, important moment of her presidency. Great numbers of approval after President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, AMLO, also had a very significant positive numbers of people's approval, people's consideration, and his successor, President Claudia Sheinbaum has continued to carry out and continue to uphold those values in the face of society, also while dealing with some of the most pressing issues that are directly affecting Mexico as well as the region as a whole, as for example the relationship with the United States, a tense relationship that has to do with migration, that has to do with the border control, that has to do with arms trade, and also trade in general, the tariff war that the United States has tried to impose on all countries across the world, but particularly its main trade partners, as Mexico is one of them. And of course, all of this escalating with the situation of the ongoing military presence and military aggression of the United States, both in the Caribbean and the Pacific. Mexico has been playing a key role in terms of balancing that situation and the need to uphold dialogue with the United States, a dialogue that is ongoing but is firm in terms of respecting the internal issues, the internal affairs of the nation that is key in every moment when we think about the relationship that the Latin American and Caribbean region has and is dealing with the United States. So at a moment like this, the way that the government of Mexico is able to stand up and maintain that dialogue is, of course, of utmost importance. Once again, we are seeing the beginning of this act as the different authorities are standing up, they're being acknowledged and being greeted. We were just seeing right now images of a parade. We are live from Mexico, let's recall. This is the 115th anniversary of the beginning of the Mexican Revolution. Once again, let's recall the people of Mexico is commemorating this anniversary that marks that moment in which that Mexican Revolution began. The Mexican Revolution struggle that opened a path to social justice, to a new way of conceiving democracy in the country, that marked the political landscape of Mexico after that moment, but also marked the political landscape of Latin America and the Caribbean region, one of the most transcendental political events and societal events of the 20th century at a global level, the Mexican Revolution, with all the implications and the possibility, the necessity of a sector of society of giving that struggle and leading that struggle towards a more equitable society, towards a more fair division of land in terms of who owns that land, who is able to work that land, and who exercises the power to control political decisions. We were saying that the Mexican Revolution opened that road towards social justice, democracy, the rights of the people. At this moment, we are looking at the Mexican authorities that with this parade, they are honoring those that took part of that struggle that was the Mexican Revolution, in hopes of building a free Mexico, a dignified Mexico, a moment that shaped what was to be of that state and continues to be. We were saying the importance that this political event and an event that reshaped the whole of society impacted on the years to come and continues to have a significant role in the government of, at this moment, President Claudia Sheinbaum. Let's listen a little bit of what is happening at this moment.
Infantería de Marina paracaidista, diplomado de Estado Mayor, José Manuel Salinas Pérez, jefe de operaciones navales de la Armada de México.
General de División de Estado Mayor, Francisco Jesús Leana Ojeda, comandante del Ejército Mexicano.
General de División, piloto aviador de Estado Mayor.
Those were images from Mexico. As we were saying, the 115th anniversary of the beginning of the Mexican Revolution. For now, we can